And today, wow, I've got one of my great friends, and we are so fortunate to have Carrie Wise. She's the VP of Industry Relations and Education. And when we really break that down, she's the liaison between TrueCar and dealers, right? You're kind of our voice and our connection. And TrueCar being really a global company, it's so amazing to have you here, Carrie. Thank you so much for joining us to kind of have this discussion.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I have to say that TrueCar, and I think first of all, there are many people that are going to be on this broadcast that you're no stranger to, and I think you have a lot of fans in the industry. As soon as I announced we were going to be on, we started seeing that here on Facebook. And bear with me as I'm sharing, and I know you wanted to share it out as well,
let me make
Carrie.
sure I share it too, and I got it on my group here as well. So awesome, it's shared.
All right, perfect. You know, one of the things I will say out loud, and I know we'll get a lot of agreement, is that, wow, what a genuine asset you are to both TrueCar and to us, the auto dealers in the industry. You know, I think I stumbled upon you 6 or 7 years ago at Digital Dealer. It's funny because it was our first digital dealer. Dave Villa and myself and the crew with Auto Dealer Live went out. We were just coming onto the scene with that podcast in a bigger way. And Dave was going to be speaking and having a session. And as we kind of, Dave and I were together, and as we were walking in kind of for the first time, there were some sessions going on, and yours was just starting. And we're like, hey, let's sneak into one of these. And we got in there, and there was Carrie Wise giving a presentation. And I was like, wow, this is impressive. We have some talent here. So I'm so thankful for what you do for dealers in our industry, Carrie.
I gotta say, I owe you and Dave, the other Dave, a lot of credit for my career. I feel like you guys may have discovered me that day, and you know, coming to TrueCar back in 2015, we weren't as liked as we are now. It wasn't as neutral as it is today, and it was tough, you know, joining the company and trying to change perception of dealers. And so for you guys to come up to me right after I was done speaking, you know, give me that praise. And I think you even invited me on your show, like immediately. That was huge validation for me, you know, as a professional. So I will always be grateful for you guys for that. Thank you.
Well, that's fantastic. You're always, you're a standing invitation for every broadcast we do. And we've even pulled you in at times to co-host live for us. So that's awesome.
Right. So much fun.
So you know, this crazy thing going on, it's obviously unprecedented. It's hit us out of the blue and fast and furious. And essentially, you know, this whole series is dedicated to not only dealers to help, and really dealers are the main benefactor here of the broadcast as we kind of navigate through this COVID thing. And different dealers are in different stages across the country. And one of the couple of the purposes for this broadcast is not only to kind of give back to dealers in a way as we can as partners with dealers, myself with Auto Dealer University, you with TrueCar, and both kind of impacting dealers all over the country. But we have a real cool kind of advantage, Carrie, in that we get to deal or to relate with so many dealers that we're kind of looking from 10,000 feet above, and we're able to kind of share, hey, this is what so-and-so is doing over here. And man, it's really working. Let me share what they're doing and what's happening right now. And it's no different right now, probably even more so with this COVID thing. And then of course, the other kind of reason for this broadcast is actually even for consumers. There are a lot of consumers that will actually catch this broadcast here on Facebook and other formats. And I believe that it really humanizes what's happening as we walk through it as dealers and figure out what our responsibility is to serve the consumer and yet still operate with these new conditions that we find ourselves in. And by the way, we have Joe Calla hopped on, said hi, Dave and Carrie.
Hey,
we've got Amanda Gordon.
I love Amanda.
She just said regarding you, Carrie, she said she's a living goddess.
Amanda is one of my automotive besties, definitely in the industry.
She's one of my favorites too. She's what's interesting is Amanda flew into Tampa and actually contributed some content to Auto Dealer University, and she's been a great friend and collaborator. We communicate, so thank you, Amanda, for hopping in. And she said, "Nice hat, David," but I think it's outdated, maybe,
Yeah,
Carrie.
I got to make that announcement, Dave. We changed the logo. So now we have a lot more colors. So I got to send you some swag, some new swag,
Oh,
definitely.
let's do that. Hey, we'll get it on our show. We'll wear it on the show and everything else. So yeah,
Right, right.
absolutely.
No, I think what you brought up about, learning from dealers, I mean, it's just such an interesting time right now because, we work in an industry where there's so many experts, right? Like there's trainers, there's consultants, and everybody. In some ways, we kind of pound our chest about all the things we know about this business. Some people know video, some people know phone call best practices and sales process and F&I, and everyone has their expertise. And I got to say, COVID has basically it's neutralized all of our expertise because no one can say they have been through this, right? Like from a dealer perspective, from a consumer perspective, like this is uncharted territory for all of us. And we're all trying to figure this out, whether you're a dealer, whether you're a vendor. And I think you're right. For us at TrueCar, one of the things that we've really tapped into is just kind of learning from our dealers right now. Because I could give you all kinds of opinions on what I think you should do, but I think it's better served when it's like, hey, there's a dealer in Indianapolis that is doing this. There's a dealer, like we got to almost learn from each other right now, and it's a day by day thing.
Yeah, agreed. And to your point, we've never been trained on this, right? As dealers, we've never been trained how to respond to a pandemic. And we've got a lot of things on our plate now, not just thinking about staying in business and operating, but protecting our people, and then also being sensitive to not only our people's feelings as we go through this and their fears and concerns, both financially and health wise, but also then again, of course, ultimately to the consumer as to how we interact, how we respond, how do we move forward here in a sensitive way, but also continue our responsibility as essential business. And also, in my opinion, Carrie, and I don't, maybe it's more of an opinion and maybe a fact, is that we kind of carry a responsibility to also share with the public what's been done as far as economic relief from the manufacturers and from the lenders. And I think that that's really crucial. And I think it's an opportunity for a lot of people to not just buy a car, but actually in some cases, Carrie, I believe that this 3 or 4 months of no payments and things like that we're having access to now that's really unprecedented could actually save someone from it all caving in on them if we're able to get along with this economic stimulus that we're beginning to receive from the government. So we got all these things going on. And then, of course, protecting people and figuring out how to deliver cars in a safe way. So, wow, just lots happening really fast that dealers have to figure out.
Yeah, yeah. And it's such a fine line because, we have our businesses to run, obviously. And so you're in that business mode and you're thinking about how can we still sell cars? But then there's this whole empathy thing that the reality is that we got to show that we actually care too. And I think even for TrueCar, you're not going to see as many of our commercials right now because we're doing more digital when we know someone's kind of in the market to shop for a car. But we have to be careful just kind of blasting out our typical messages right now in this environment where people are potentially suffering from illness or potentially worried about their jobs. And so it really is a fine line in terms of balancing that business and also the empathy of truly understanding and caring for what people are going through right now.
Yeah, I think it really is all about our approach
Yes.
and our messaging during this time. And then, of course, our ingenuity on how creative we can become to implement processes and things like that. We're seeing great things. Jennifer Briggs hopped in. She said, "Hey, lady, our Nissan store just asked about the TrueCar digital retailing tool. Are we talking about that on this live as well?"
Absolutely. I would love to. I mean, we're doing a ton of things, and I promise I didn't pay Jennifer to ask that question. That sounds like I might have, but no, I think right now, I mean, you're seeing a lot of vendors that are not only making concessions, just from a billing standpoint, right? Then that's probably the bare minimum. And we did the same thing, for our dealers that are paying subscription rates. They got a 50% discount for the month of April. The thing that makes us a little bit more unique is that many of our dealers pay us per sale. So really their bills just automatically adjust. If traffic was only 25% of what it was before, their bill is going to be 25%, right? They only pay us when they sell cars. But from a tool standpoint, we have always been known for an upfront price on TrueCar, and we've been in the trade business too, right? Upfront trade value. We had all these plans really through the summer to roll out a complete retail solutions from a digital retailing standpoint, right? Because it's more than just the price of the car. It's more than just the trade value. What about payments, for example, right? Most consumers are payment shoppers. And so that's really important. And we had plans of rolling that out through the summer. And when this happened, like a lot of dealers and vendors, we had to accelerate all of those digital retailing tools to be able to roll them out now or soon. And so we pulled forward, for example, one, we're offering free retail remote retailing tools like payment calculators on the dealership's website, remote calculators that allow a dealership to offer payments just on the fly remotely. And we're giving those away complimentary through the month of June for dealers that are signed on for TrueCar, because payments in the whole financing piece is going to be so important to the equation. And then also we've moved forward offering payments to TrueCar customers. So when you went through the flow before, you only could get an upfront price or trade value. Starting in May, a consumer on TrueCar can also get a finance or a lease payment as well. So we're trying to give dealers tools to do it on their own site, but we're also enhancing the TrueCar experience so that it's a more end-to-end experience that enables this whole remote retailing experience that dealers need to be focused on right now.
Well, hey, kudos to TrueCar for pushing this out a little bit earlier than planned or sooner than planned, because now we see the demand, right? And it really is a solution for consumers and dealers. And dealers are looking right now at, how can I get up to speed and get this thing going? And in fact, we're seeing a lot of dealers that this is sort of the catalyst of the next phase, right? Things that we knew that we would evolve to, but now it's pushing the envelope a little bit sooner. So thank you so much. Hey, we've got Sandy Zanino in. She says,
Hi,
hello.
Sandy.
Hello, you two wonderful people. Thank you, Sandy, for hopping in.
Yeah, it's interesting times. I mean, not sorry to cut you off, but I think a lot of when you talk about remote retailing and digital retailing, I mean, it's been such a buzzword, over the last year or two. And so, the only good that may come out of this is it's forcing all of us to kind of accelerate the things that either we were already working on or we had in sight. And it's kind of forcing us to accelerate that and to try some of these new things. Think about this business, and even when it comes to transparency, I remember, we all remember when TrueCar first came out, right? And the idea of giving pricing online was not necessarily a welcome thing, right? There was a lot of resistance to that. Right now, if you have a customer that can't come in your showroom, we're gladly giving information online, right? We're gladly giving payments. We're gladly working deals, and we're looking at their trades sight unseen. And so it's kind of amazing that all the things that we've talked about are kind of being accelerated in this COVID environment.
Yeah, it's funny how the market evolves, and we see it in other industries where, an idea 10 years ago would have been the last thing you would ever want to do. And then it's everything you want to do in the future. So what I'm doing is I'm taking everything that works right now and I'm not doing it.
You're not doing it.
I want to be ahead of the curve and do all the wrong things now. No, I'm just kidding. But speaking of doing the right things, again, we go back to this position we're in, Carrie, both of us, where we're kind of looking from 10,000 feet above and being able to see what dealers around the country are doing. And I'm seeing some great practices, which I'll be happy to share a few. Yeah. And then maybe also you can say maybe some things that you've seen or that TrueCar is observing or has a strategy. anything that you would want to share that you feel might be valuable to dealers. Real quick, I'll share that one of the things that we did in the shift that we made immediately, and this came straight from our CEO, both David Villa and his father, Michael Villa, are actually the managing and owner partners in Auto Dealer University. And I don't know if you know, but Mike Villa was the founder, creator of Dealer Wizard, the data mining tool that many dealers across the U.S. Use and still use today. But he did sell out that company a couple years back, and now came on as a partner with David in the Auto Dealer University. And right now we're the fastest growing, little plug, but we're the fastest growing training platform in the country and into Canada now. We're real excited about that. Dealers literally sign on every day. But we did a paradigm shift. We stopped the sales, if you will, when this hit, because we said, hey, right now is the time to come alongside the dealer. We're all in this together. Mm-hmm. And how do we come alongside a dealer, help them through this time? And then, of course, as we get past this window, which we, from all evidence, appears to be a season, once we get past this window, then obviously serving our industry right now will probably see a return later. But one of the things we've done is we created a whole COVID series, which all of our dealer partners have access to, and a script for an outbound call that not only is very effective, but remains sensitive, sends the right message, and actually your salespeople get excited about making the call during this time, which is a tough thing to overcome, just mentally getting on the phone and calling out during this time. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that we're giving that out for free. And I'm going to put that on the screen real quick. It'll just scroll across the bottom. And then some of the things, Carrie, that we're seeing dealers do. There's a gentleman that is one of our clients, and he's a salesperson at a Nissan dealer here in Tampa. And he created a video where he does a great job on videos, and he has a huge social media presence, but he's driving up into the dealership in his car with a mask on, gets out, goes into his office, sits down, takes the mask off, and says, you know what, I can tell you all about the great things that are going on right now and the opportunities with the car, but let me just share with you, let me just take it down a notch and just share with you what I did and what my sister did and what my mom did. Right now, all three of us have gotten payment relief. And he goes into this story, and it's really compelling because it humanizes him. It sends the right message. It's sensitive. It's on point. It gets your attention. But things like that we see in dealerships. So I shared that into our university Facebook and shared it on my Facebook. And I've had dealers reach out to me and say, wow, what a great way to do this. And they're taking pointers from that. So that's just one thing. But
that's great.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe talk about some things you're seeing, Carrie, and some approaches that maybe we should consider as dealers.
Yeah, so I think, there's the obvious foundation of having remote processes that are available, right? So we have to be able to talk about pricing and be very open about pricing on your website, obviously over the phone now, because that for some dealers, that's your only choice. Allowing for online paperwork process and F&I processes that consumers can do before they leave the house. Sanitization procedures obviously are critical. And one of the things that we did, just so that to do a little plug, if you go to TrueCar.com/dealer, if you go to our blog, we've put out articles and content with actual detail on how do you do paperwork safely. I mean, there's things like the PIN that you have to think about, like when you're giving the paperwork and you're delivering it to someone's home, even the PIN can cause somebody to have anxiety that is that a new PIN? And so we're seeing dealers literally have brand new PINs during the paperwork process. So we've outlined, how do you safely deliver paperwork? How do you safely deliver the car to the consumer at their home or designated spot? So I think the processes are the obvious things, but what I would say is a huge opportunity is what you had just touched on in that video, which is how do we communicate these processes? Because I've gone to certain dealerships' websites and I still don't always see a COVID section even on their site. And I think that's a missed opportunity, because if I'm going to go to your site, I need to understand how your dealership is reacting to COVID. Are you open or not? Do I even have the choice to come in? I think all that information is important. One of the first things, if you go to TrueCar.com right now, that we actually changed on our site is we had that whole COVID section for consumers so that they can click on it, they can understand the rebates and incentives that are being available across all the OEMs. And we also badged our dealers very early on with what we call buy from home. So our dealers that offer buy from home programs. So they'll do paperwork online, they'll deliver the car remotely, they have sanitization procedures. We're putting that buy from home badging if that dealer opts in for that, so that a consumer is very clear that this is a dealer that really has their COVID processes in order and can safely deliver a car and enable you to buy a car from them. So I think communication is critical, and video is a big part of that. I'm seeing some really great videos from dealers that are outlining from A to Z what their process is to safely help consumers buy a car. And I think the details are important. I got to admit, I just went through a McDonald's drive-through 2 days ago. I'm embarrassed to say that publicly, but I went through the McDonald's drive-through, and I got to tell you, I was looking at the woman who handed me my meal, and she didn't have gloves on. And there literally was a moment where I almost thought about not like throwing away my food or not even taking it from her. She had the mask on, and the mask was below her nose. Like, it wasn't covering her nose. And
right.
It's so funny how in her mind, she's doing her job.
Right.
But to me, it was a symbol like, is it really safe? Like, what are the cooks like back there? Are they really taking these procedures very carefully? Because the woman handing my food is kind of lax about it. And so I think from a dealer standpoint, we have to remember that even in the video, when you're showing the cars, like gloves, things like that symbolically show me that you are buttoned up from a sanitization procedure standpoint, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense, and you're right on. And it's funny how we forget about the little small things. I feel like I've been playing this huge game of Simon Says, because like I'll protect myself when I do one thing, and then I catch myself touching something like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, right? And I keep doing that. And so anyway, yeah. So to your point, and a couple things I'll share with you. On the websites, because before, when I go into live trainings with dealers, the first thing I do right before the training is I'll look at their site. Has this been updated? Are they showing anything like this? And what is it, right? One of the things I recommended, by the way, Jim Ziegler's in.
Hi, Jim.
He said, I had a great interview with him yesterday, but he said hard to believe there was resistance. That was based on an earlier comment that we were talking about. But thanks for hopping in, Jim. But one of the things that I also recommended to my dealers, and I would love to see this on dealer sites, but I think we should have, because COVID is the thing, right? And it's the elephant in the room, even when you first land on a page. I think it would be great to see on a dealer site a count of how many families we've given relief to. So, maybe look back in the last 30 days. Hey, we've helped 172 families get relief, that kind of thing. And then, and if you can grab a testimonial video from a client or customer, wow, that's huge as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you go on our blog, speaking of that, we actually did an article just on dealers that are giving back to their communities. And we've always been a very charitable industry, but I think sharing that is important. And there's a tone there. I mean, you have to be it's a fine line between, bragging about giving back, but there's still dealers that are doing amazing things. They're donating masks to hospitals, and, they're giving back in that way. And so I think that's important that we share that information. One dealer in LA it was so simple, but he just put a video and he thanked all of the nurses, the doctors, all of those, the medical staff that are out there, working with these COVID patients. And I just thought, like, wow, thank you goes a long ways, right? Like,
yeah,
so simple.
Yeah, we saw it. We saw it here in Tampa. We have a dealer, one of our long-time dealers on Auto Dealer University, Brad Wise with Furman Chevrolet in Tampa. They're the oldest Chevy store in Florida. And along Dealer Row in a really busy street. They lined up with sniper signs, the little signs you see on the side of the road that last about a week until the DMV comes and takes them away.
Yes.
But they lined up all these sniper signs in front of the dealership. There are probably literally hundreds of them. And it was just a big thank you to all the healthcare workers. And it really sent a really positive message as you're driving by. I'm pretty sure those aren't going to get snatched up. But what a great thing to do. And then we had, as a spotlight feature on Auto Dealer University last week, we had a gentleman named Marcel, who is part of an owner of the 44th largest dealer group in the country. Most of their presence is in New York and Staten Island. And him and his partner got a phone call because they serve a lot of first responders there just naturally. That's part of their customer base. They received a phone call from a first responder, and he said, my friend who's also a policeman or firefighter or something, his car is in repair and he needs a car to get somewhere to help someone. Is it possible you would have a loaner car that he could use maybe one time for this one occasion? And they both looked at each other and said, you know what? Let everyone know we're pulling all of our loaner cars in, and we're going to give them to every first responder that we can until we run out of loaner cars. And you keep them as long as you need to. So that was a genuine sense of, in the moment, they saw a need and they go, we can do this. And seeing things like that, those stories from around the country are amazing.
Absolutely. And I think, it's so important right now. I think all of us, I don't know where you are, but, I've gone through all these moments almost like of grief in some ways with this whole COVID thing, like being quarantined. And I don't mean to complain because I am alive, I'm healthy, I have a job still. So there's definitely people that have it worse. But, we all have had our moments where we're like in shock about this thing. And, feeling like things are out of our control right now. And I think the one kind of remedy to that is giving back. And I think there's many dealers that are doing that. And I think kind of enabling for those who do have sales staff that are still working right now or who haven't been furloughed, we always have to think about like, how can we enable our employees to kind of help and give back? I know at TrueCar, one of the things our HR department did was send us a list of ways we could give back. You could give blood. Here's an organization. And they kind of enabled us to not only give back, but to kind of feel good in a moment where things feel out of our control right now. Right?
Yeah, I think that's huge. That can be very therapeutic. Sometimes I say when you need, give, right? And it can be very therapeutic. Let's do this. Let's speak directly to, Carrie, if you would, dealers that do partner specifically with TrueCar. Let's talk to them. And what would you say that might be something that they either may not be aware of, or something you'd like to say, hey, since you're one of our partners, you might want to check this out or look at this a little further. Anything that you can think of that might be good information for so many of the dealers that are partnering with TrueCar?
Yeah. So I think in general, there's a lot of different things we're doing. I mean, before I jump into TrueCar, I think right now it's about efficiency, right? There's no room to waste from a people, process, or even marketing standpoint, right? We want to make sure that all of your marketing partners are delivering from a digital marketing efficiency or any of your marketing channels, because now's the time, right? And I think for us, obviously I mentioned that we have offered some discounts and concessions for the month of April, because traffic is obviously down. But I do want to make sure from a tool standpoint, you're aware of different things we have going out. Our texting platform, we've kind of like made sure that dealers know that our consumers have that channel. We've kind of opened that channel up to allow dealers to communicate more remotely. And texting is not something new, but it's certainly, we want to communicate with consumers how they want to communicate. So now our consumers can text only if they want to with dealers. So they should know about that. The other thing is our remote retailing tools. I mentioned through the month of June, we're offering basically payment calculators on the dealer's website through our dealer science company that we acquired, and also sales calculators that allow you to offer payments to customers remotely, right? So you can take that with you anywhere you go. So that's available for TrueCar customers, complimentary through the month of June. I mentioned we launched payments on TrueCar.com. So now consumers can get an upfront price on TrueCar, a value on their trade for dealers that participate into that, and payments on TrueCar, which we're launching in mid-May. And so I want dealers to know, if you're a TrueCar dealer, you need to opt in for the payment side of it and for the trade side of it. And we are also offering that complimentary through the month of June. And lastly, and probably more importantly, is buy from home badging. So if you're a dealer that enables online paperwork, you'll deliver the car to the customer at home or at a designated location. You have sanitization procedures. If you have those three, you need to opt in, and we will badge your dealers. So when a consumer is looking at 3 dealers on TrueCar, you want to make sure that you have the buy from home badging. You want to make sure you have that trade badging, meaning you're offering a trade value, and you have that paperwork badging when we roll that out. So a consumer sees, listen, this is a dealer that gives me an end-to-end remote experience, right? I can get all of that from A to Z, and of course, in a safe way. So all of these things, reach out to us, TrueCar.com/dealer. You can also reach out to your rep, and they'll make sure you're set up to get these benefits.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Not just for those who might be considering partnering with TrueCar, but obviously your current clients, just so they know they can opt into this, that, and they understand everything that's available. I think it's one of the things that is kind of a thing in this industry, is that we partner with a lot of different resources, but we don't always know as much about them or not current on them, where we know that we have these opportunities. And of course that falls on both sides to make sure that we're communicating the message. But so thankful that I had the opportunity to ask you that question and you were able to share that for dealers. I think that's huge.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like you think about how many emails are coming to you right now. I don't know if you've received a lot of emails, but every company that I'm partnered with, my cell phone company, my mortgage company, like everyone's sending letters and emails and COVID. So it's really easy for this stuff to slip through the cracks. But we want to enable dealers to do it themselves in terms of remote retailing through their own website, but also, we have traffic still coming into TrueCar.com, right? And to our 500 partners that we power. And so why not make sure you're presenting yourself in the best way? And so it's just simply opting into these things if you're a TrueCar dealer. And if you're not a TrueCar dealer, reach out to us, and we'd love to have you aboard. People are still shopping for cars.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So Carrie, I have one final question. I think it's the most important question of this entire interview. But before I ask that and close us out, is there any other closing comment that you want to make, or anything you feel we left out before I go to the final question?
No, I think right now, and I was just talking to one of my dealer clients and friends, is I think if, we talk a lot about digital retailing and remote retailing, and that's obviously very important right now. But I think efficiency is really the name of the game. And, you're seeing dealerships, unfortunately, have to make decisions to lay people off or to furlough people. And I often think about what's going to happen after we're kind of through this. Like, what processes are we going to keep? Because the consumer is just going to still demand it. Like, they still want home delivery, as an example.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think about that, Dave? Like, what's going to actually say?
Yeah, I do. And I think right now is a time that there are things being exposed. There are things that are being exposed in the way of, well, we really didn't need this as much, or this wasn't getting as much use. Like you said, we've got to be more efficient right now. Dealers are getting lean, like it or not, right? So being able to figure out, hey, where do we now make the shift and put more of a priority, drop this over here, and let's focus more on this that's going to give us a better return, especially given the circumstances and where we're at in the season. So I think you're absolutely right. But I do believe that we're all going to come out of this in a healthier way. I really do.
I think so. I think, there's a marketing efficiency, but I think even just from a people standpoint, I have a dealership in Indianapolis where, unfortunately he had to lay off some of his staff. But what he ended up doing with the staff that he had still with him is he almost had to get more out of each person, or think about, okay, their role today is just this piece of the process. Could they do more? And so I think what's the good that's going to come out of this as dealerships, but just as people, is we're all going to kind of examine the things that we've always done, and do they still make sense in post-COVID world?
Absolutely. And when I mention things being exposed, that's not just negative. That's not negative. That's the good things too, right? Like, oh my gosh, this person, I never knew this person had this talent or could do also this role. So there's a lot of things that will come out of this that will make us healthier. So Carrie, I'm going to close with probably what I feel is the most important question that I could ask you is for our dealers and for consumers, for the whole world right now. And I'll close with this. Have you seen Tiger King on Netflix?
Absolutely. And I watched it in probably 24 hours. So that's like binging all day and night. I am not ashamed to admit it.
I love it. It's absolutely crazy.
Unbelievable.
It's an opportunity too. Hey, you want to get, we talked about video earlier, getting creative with your video. You might want to jump on this Tiger King thing before it's too late. But yeah, fascinating.
And it's a lesson in branding.
Right?
Good and
right? So hey, Carrie, for real though, I can't thank you enough. I know how valuable your time is, and what you do for dealers. And as I opened up with, I mean, there's just, you can look in the sidebar and look at the comments and really understand how many fans you have in this business, and it's just a small representation of the impact you've had. I can't thank you enough. Every time that I'm in a same physical location as you, I'm trying to find you so that we can connect and have a moment brainstorming or just collaborating. It really lifts my spirits. I love to hear you speak. I just think you're one of the most talented individuals in this industry.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. It means so much to me, David, coming from you. And I think, I think what I've tried to do in my career is surround myself with good people. And you are an example of that, in this business, there's a lot of good apples, there's some bad apples, but I'm trying to surround myself with good people like you that are authentic and care about this business. So I appreciate everything you've done for me. I did want to mention, I mentioned TrueCar.com/dealer. We have a blog that has a lot of COVID. We have a whole COVID section on there with articles. And I do want to mention TrueCar.com/webinars. So we are doing we're doing weekly webinars every Wednesday that will cover topics like this. So I appreciate
That's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Dealers, and dealers, make sure you jump in. I even share, even as an individual salesperson, jump into those things and learn more about your craft and see how can I leverage any piece of this to help grow my business. Again, thank you so much. Amberly Allen Joseph jumped in, making women in automotive proud.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's been so near and dear to my heart, being a part of Women in Automotive. So I appreciate that, Amber.
So awesome. Okay, Carrie, we're going to sign off. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in, and just continue to tune into this series as we're kind of on, at least here, I'm on lockdown. Looks like you are too, Carrie. And so whatever we can do to bring value to dealers right now is number one priority. And we'll be talking, I believe, tomorrow. Tomorrow I have on Dan Mason. He's a former GSM at a Honda store here in Elgin, Florida, and he has a big announcement to make. So make sure that you're tuning in tomorrow, and we'll continue this conversation in all ways to help dealers through this particular time, and the good news, through the comeback as we launch into better times. So thank you so much, Carrie. Can't say enough.
Thank you so much, and stay safe, everybody. I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
All right.
All right.